Okay, cool. We're all here. Welcome back, guys. It's your friendly neighborhood investor, Patrick Hurley, back again with my guest co-host, the systems master with an integrator spirit, Mike McKibbs. What's up, man? How are you?
What is up? Hey, Elephant fam, how's it going?
What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Um, yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Just wrapping up the W-2 for the day, getting ready to put on the real estate hat and get into it. Listen to some wisdom.
Love it. Guys, this guy has a W-2 and a newborn, and he is doing the work, helping me with systems in the background. So give him some love in the chat, guys. Also, I will say he serves as a model and an example, guys. You can't make excuses. You just got to show up and do the work. And I haven't always wanted to, make phone calls and, um, show up for these meetings and whatnot, to be honest, but you show up even if you don't want to do it. And if you do that for long enough, you'll actually start to enjoy this stuff. You'll just start to love this stuff. So thanks for being here, bro. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
So yeah, let's take a look. Today, guys, before we get started, I always like to start off by asking who's new and who has been to these meetings. So if you're new in the chat, type new. If you are joining us again, type FAM, FAM in the chat, guys. I want to see how many of you guys are new and how many of you guys have been hanging out with us for quite some time. Nice. Look at all the fam here, baby. Oh, we have a following, Mike. Pretty crazy, huh?
Looking like it.
Love it. Okay, we got some new people too. That's awesome. So if you are new, in the chat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post some videos. These videos are, in my opinion, like the foundation. So you have how to get started in wholesaling, how to get started with creative finance, and how to build a real estate business. And then there's some scripts in there as well. We're still developing and tweaking those. And then there's a JV form that you can submit if you do have a motivated lead. Okay, I will note, what is a motivated lead? Well, motivated lead is somebody who really wants to sell and somebody who has already heard your soft pitch, as I like to put it. Maybe it's a creative deal, maybe it's a subto, maybe it's a seller finance deal, maybe it's a cash deal. If it's one of those and that they're interested and they're willing to work with you, then that is a motivated lead. Feel free to submit them and we will help you get that deal to the finish line so that you guys can make money. All right. So those are some links for you guys to follow. Don't watch those now. Be with us here. Be with us now. What I want to do today, because last time I had this master plan to talk about creative finance, and we ended up just answering questions for like literally 90 minutes, which I actually like doing, but I want to stay on topic today. So if you guys have questions, that's great. I want you to save them until the end. Now, if you have questions during this whole process, during this meeting, raise your hand, turn your camera on so that we can pull you up and actually chat with you guys, because I want to, I want to get to know you guys. I want to network with you guys. Okay. So, okay. Today, what we're going to do is go through somewhat of like a creative finance masterclass. I'm going to talk about what kind of deals there are out there and where you can find them. And I'm going to do some initial calls, some first time calls with both agents and sellers. Hopefully they pick up their phone. And then I'm going to show you the email that I typically send out directly after I have that conversation with the agents and sellers, breaking down what equity is. And then I'm going to make some follow-up calls on people that I've already sent those emails to. Again, hopefully they pick up their phones. And after all that, hopefully we'll have some time and I'll actually do a quick underwriting of a subto deal. I'll just randomly choose one and I'll throw it into a spreadsheet so you guys can see us go through that process. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, let's hold them till the end. If it's relating to what I'm talking about, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll pull you up on screen. All right, let me pull up my Miro board and I'll share my screen with you guys. All right, so let's get this out of the way and present this. Now, if you have not already been with us, or if you haven't already watched the videos that I've posted about equity, go back and watch it, Getting Started on Creative Finance. Actually, our last meeting or my last YouTube post I broke this down. People had questions about it. Go watch that, guys. I'm not going to go through that again. But if you're going to be working with creative deals, you need to know what equity is and how to calculate it. All right. So what kind of opportunities are actually out there? And by the way, Mike, if you have questions too and you want to interrupt me like Gary, please do, because that's how I operate. If I don't get interrupted during these meetings, I will not feel normal.
I'll try to find a good spot.
Yeah, if there's any questions in the side chat too, just yell them out to me. All right, so what's subto? Subtos became extremely popular because Pace is amazing at not only edutainment, that's education and entertaining, but he has a great social following, great social presence. So that's how I came into the community. But subto is basically where we are assuming a loan and we're signing a power of attorney, and we're the person on the loan is remaining on the loan, and we are taking title in either our name or our entity name. So that's what a subto is. Now, how we're finding these is we're going to be filtering inside of programs like PropStream or Batch Leads. I use PropStream. That's one of my preferred methods. And so what we're filtering for is equity that's 20% or below. All right. So that means that in this example here, at $300,000, if they're on market or if they were trying to sell, they've only got about 60K in equity. All right. Or below that. So that's what we're filtering for. The type of loan that we're looking for, generally speaking, is going to be a VA, a conventional loan, or an FHA loan. And what we're looking for in terms of interest rates are 5% and below. Okay. So can we close a subto deal with 5% and above? Sure. Is it going to be a deal for us? Might not be a deal. And the reason that I don't generally focus on those is, number one, I'm trying to cash flow my properties. And a lot of investors are. So the median price point in the country is about 410K. And if you look at average rental rates in the area comparatively to a mortgage payment at 5% and above, what you'll find is you're probably going to lose money in cash flow every month. So that's why we set the criteria to 5% or below. All right. Okay, now, where are we finding these? Well, I typically look in two different places. One is 60 DOM plus. What does DOM plus mean? This is days on market, guys. So if you have an active listing and it's been on the market for 60 days, that they, generally speaking, in most markets that are primary markets, not tertiary markets, secondary markets, what you're going to see is properties will go under contract and close within about 45 days. Now, because the interest rates are a little bit higher, it can extend that window of time. Also, the bed and bath count can extend that window of time to 60 days. But generally speaking, if it's 60 days plus, the seller is starting to get the sense of, okay, this isn't moving, this isn't selling. They're starting to feel the pressure. All right. So this for me becomes a great opportunity to start the conversation of employing other tools besides coming in with a conventional loan and or cash to purchase the property, right? Now, the other one would be an expired listing, which is very similar to days on market. This is where the listing agreement with the agent who is representing the seller has expired and the listing has failed. Now, this can also happen when a seller says, you know what, this isn't working. Maybe they're just not happy with the agent. Maybe it's just sitting on the market forever. And they're just like, all right, let's pull a plug on this. And then the listing becomes expired. Okay. So these are the overall filters in which I'm targeting my leads. All right. Not everything is a subto deal.
Jerry's got a good question in here. I think Jerry will probably get into it in a second, but Jerry asks, let's say there's 40% equity, would creative finance not then be an option? I think we'd be probably talking about a hybrid situation in that case, right, Patrick?
Don't you love it when questions perfectly segue into what you're about to talk about? So yes, that would be a hybrid. Let me go back to screen sharing here. So yes, you are correct. So the next, we'll get to there in a second, but let's talk about seller finance. So seller finance, in my opinion, and I have closed seller finance deals, in my opinion, seller finance deals are a little bit tougher to negotiate. Why? Well, again, this is my opinion. I think that the motivation is a little bit lower and it's got to be a perfect storm. So the last seller finance deal that I closed, I've told this story before. It was a combination between the right timing and luck, right? I spoke to a seller and she had a house that she was renting to her son, and the son and his wife were getting a divorce, and it was nasty. Okay, so they weren't taking care of the house, and this woman in particular, love this woman, still have a relationship with her. She's very analytical, very particular, and she likes to take care of her properties. And so because the fact that they weren't taking care of it and there was a nasty divorce, she felt like she was done with it. So she just wanted to move on. And in her case, she was like in her last year of employment as a consultant. So it worked out for taxes as well. So it was a perfect storm, right? That all being said, when we're looking at these types of opportunities, this is where there's a 100% equity, meaning there is no loan, aka note, on the property. It's free. You'll also hear the phrase free and clear, right? So when I'm talking to agents or sellers, I'll say, is this free and clear? And they'll say, yeah, it's free and clear. That means that there's 100% equity. They own it outright. Okay. The other two filters that I'm looking at are vacant and tired landlord. So tired landlord, guys, I honestly don't even know how PropStream filters that actual criteria, but it's somebody who's been renting out the property for an extended amount of time. That's what they consider a tired landlord. It's a phrase. I think it's a little somewhat arbitrary and left open to interpretation, but this is somebody who's been renting out the property for quite some time. So these are the two types of situations that I'm looking at when it comes to seller finance. Why are we looking at vacant and tired landlord situations? Why not owner occupied? Well, if somebody's living in a house and they're trying to sell it, what are they most likely going to do with that money, guys? In the chat, let's see if you guys are awake. What are they going to do with that money? I can't see my chat. Where's my chat? Mike, what are they saying in the chat? I can't see it.
No responses yet.
No responses yet. Guys, what are they going to do with money if they sell a house and they're living in it? 1031.
If you lived in a house and you sold it,
I knew Anthony got it. Ding, 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 ding. I wish I had something to give away to Anthony. But I've got nothing for you guys right now, but besides knowledge bombs. Yes, they're gonna buy another house, guys. So what they're not going to sell or finance the deal. And if they do, they're going to need a considerable amount of money in terms of a down payment. And remember, we talked about this in earlier Zooms and meetings, is that generally we're trying to get in at 10% for a seller finance or a subto deal in terms of our entry fee, right? So that's why vacant and tired landlord, those are two situations that work better. And again, our source here, you could go direct to seller without these, but I like to go after people who are raising their hands already. And again, it's 60 days on market and expired listings. All right. Okay. Any questions about that, guys? All right. Okay. And then so when we have a note on the property, an existing loan, and they've got considerable equity, we refer to that as a hybrid. Where, you know, I don't know if this is true or not, but I believe Pace was one of the first ones to start doing this. I know that generally in the past, they would wrap them into one note. And he was like, why are we doing this? Why don't we just separate the notes? And when you look at it, it actually makes a lot of sense. I don't know who's drawing on my screen or how they did that, but cut that out. Quit doing your drawing magic. So hybrid, what are we looking for here? Well, equity of 20% or above, right? It's the opposite of the subto. It's 20% or above, right? So I would say 25% and above, actually. We're looking for the same types of loans, guys. VA, conventional, FHA. You can also, I didn't put commercial on here, but you can actually do commercial loans as well. And because this is a hybrid, because there's considerable equity, again, I'm trying to stay away from owner-occupied properties. Why? Goes back to the whole down payment, guys. I'm not trying to give them $100,000. I'm not trying to give them 30% down or anything over 20% down is ridiculous. Anything over 15% starts to really cut into your cash on cash return. Okay, so, and again, we're looking at these interest rates, 5% or below. All right. And yes, the same source. Cool. Does that all make sense, guys? If it doesn't,
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you pulled a list like this before. Have you used PropStream? Have you used any of those type of data collection software to get something like this?
So,
Patty says yes. That's Cindy.
well, when I was filtering on PropStream, I noticed that a lot of the mortgages had like, it would say conventional 360, no interest. Why is that?
it wasn't conveying the interest to you.
No, not at all. Like,
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would do, guys, what she just said is pretty important, and I didn't even think about that, and I'm very aware of this. Really, really important that you guys know this. So sometimes, for whatever reason, it will not populate the interest rate. So what you want to do is you want to take a look at the original note, the original borrowed amount. Let's say it's $500,000, whatever. You take that amount and you Google mortgage calculator. Okay. $500,000 into the mortgage calculator. You set the interest rate at 5%, and it will show you the payment inside of PropStream. So cross-reference that payment that you're seeing on the mortgage calculator that you just Googled with what you're seeing in PropStream. And if it matches that, or if it's below it, you know if it's 5% or below. Does that make sense?
yes.
Cool. Cindy, thank you again for hanging out with us. She's always here, you know? I feel like she's my shadow.
She never leaves.
She never leaves. All right, I appreciate you. That's a good question. Okay, so back to this. Hybrid. So any other questions on this, guys? So there's a lot of, here's the one thing I'll mention, guys. Sub twos are pretty straightforward. Well, in terms of how they're structured, I will say, because essentially you're paying out equity, then you're taking over a loan. That's how it's straightforward. The actual transaction is not straightforward at all. It's kind of complicated. And that's why we have elephant leaders, so that we can take care of it for you. The seller financing can be, there is a lot of different ways that you can structure these. I mean, a lot of different ways. But essentially you're doing a down payment, payment over time, and what's called a balloon payment, which means that you're paying the remaining amount off in the future. Now, what Pace would always jokingly say is balloons are for clowns. And so what he's referring to and referencing is that you want to try to steer away from balloons. But 9 times out of 10, the seller is going to want their money relatively soon. And one of the questions that I'll ask the seller and or the agent involved is, you know, what are you planning on doing with the money? I'm just curious. I want to celebrate with you. That's kind of one of the jokes I'll say. Or I'll say, I'm just curious, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? Are you thinking about moving this money into retirement? Because if you're dealing with a seller who's like, you know, in their 90s, chances are they're probably not going to want to get ballooned out in 15 years, right? Unless they've got a trust and they don't really care about that. So something to consider. There's a ton of different ways to structure these. Dylan is raising his hands. Thank you for raising your hand, Dylan. What's up, Dylan?
Hey, so I was just gonna ask, I mean, to pitch a hybrid though, for sure, would just definitely be more direct to seller, one, and then two, I've known the criteria for the creative deals. It says balloons at 7 years. Is that like for hybrids specifically, or?
It just depends on your buyer, right? And so why you'll typically see more advanced investors asking for 7 years is that if we take a look at the history of real estate in the market, right, what you're going to see is cycles, right? Things go up and things go down. It has to do with inflation and interest rates, and it can get kind of complicated. But the simple version of it is things go up and things go down. And interest rates, when they're high, it's no longer a friendly environment to lend, because let's say, for example, you have a house and you do seller finance on it, right? And let's say you've got a 2% interest rate on your seller finance note, which is a great, fantastic interest rate, right? And you have let's say you have a 5-year balloon, and on year 5, let's say it balloons this year, interest rates are as high as they've been in a long time. The national average right now is 8%. So you would be losing money on any rental that you purchased on that. So if you were to refinance that asset at the current interest rates, you would then begin to lose money. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So by having a 10-year balloon or a 7-year balloon, it allows that real estate cycle to kind of get to a low point. And if you're a smart investor, you won't even wait until your balloon period. You'll balloon out at that point in time so that you can get traditional financing at a low rate and lock that in instead of taking a risk in the future. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Does that all make
Is
sense,
7
guys?
years like the typical like time frame of, or it's just buying you time?
I'm not that smart. To predict the market is what you're asking.
Yeah, I
Right?
know, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always point to guys who have predicted the market and have been right in the past. And I say, follow that dude. He knows more than I do. You know what I mean? But you don't necessarily need to predict the market. What you need to do is understand how to securitize yourself in these transactions. And there's a few different ways to do it. Number one would be to dictate your terms that you will balloon out in 7 years unless interest rates remain above 3.5%, 4%, whatever it is. And then you can trigger that where once rates are below 4%, you'll execute the note and you'll perform and you'll balloon them out. Another way to do it is appraisal triggers. You can appraise the property at the time of the balloon to make sure that the house is worth a specific amount. So that 70% of the value of the home can satisfy that note. That's another way that you could do it. But again, you're looking at interest rates that might be a little bit higher at that point in time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so these are all great questions, guys. And so let me just say this. I'm an analytical dude. And when I first started, I was like, I need to know all of the things before I do any of the things, right? And that's not how this works. How this works is you got to get somebody interested in the idea, and then you go find somebody who knows all this technical stuff, and you go, okay, what do I do from here? Like Gary's not with us right now. He's in a conference in Vegas, but I call him a deal architect because he'll not only do the paperwork, but he'll look at a deal and he'll do a fiduciary duty to you, the person negotiating, and he'll be like, are you sure you want to do that? You're not securitized, or this might not pencil this way for you. So that's why you guys have us to lean on. Cool. Dylan, it's good seeing you here again, bro. Thanks for hanging out. Cindy, are you back again?
Sorry, I just have that one quick question because I was filtering all weekend. I was looking for leads. Are you guys good with pre-foreclosures, low interest, low, or like is that a good filter for you? Pre-foreclosures, low equity.
Yeah, I mean,
low.
Here's the thing with foreclosures. Okay, I'll be very, and again, I'm always just giving you my opinion and an experience, guys. Okay, because I mean, I know people in the mentorship, they only focus on foreclosures. Like that's their thing. And they go and they knock on doors and they close deals. For me, in my experience, foreclosures, like I literally just dealt with one and it was a cash deal and it fell through in the 11th hour because they ended up getting $260,000 from their family to save their home, which by the way, that's a win in my opinion, because I'm here to solve people's problems and create homes, not take them away. But my point is that foreclosures can create a lot of problems, and you're dealing with sellers who have what's called ostrich syndrome, right? And they're sticking their head in the sand and they don't want to deal with you or the agent or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what you're dealing with. However, I can't think of any pain higher than losing your home. And so that's the trade-off. They're difficult to deal with, but there is so much pain, they're probably going to say yes to terms.
I'm going to have to look at scripts on that one because I'm actually not looking forward to knocking on doors and talking to someone losing their home. The other question, I sent you a lead and I realized.
Well, can I interrupt you for a moment and just jump in on that?
Yes.
If I were you and those of you listening who are talking about foreclosures, before you start calling on foreclosures, educate yourself. Educate yourself on how it works. If you Google that in your state, there's plenty of information on how foreclosures work, on the options for people to save their homes. And what I would do is I would present yourself as somebody that can help save their home and truly, truly mean that and come from a place of actually trying to help them. If you're coming from a place that's anything but that, I don't align with that and I don't want to do business with you. That goes to everybody here.
Yeah.
But not only that, but you have to know certain things. Like, for example, did you know that if you're trying to get a loan modification and they don't live in the home, you can't get one? If they don't have an income stream, you cannot get a loan modification. Why is a loan modification important? Well, what if they owe $80,000 in arrears? You can get a loan mod and attach to that to the back of the loan and reduce your entry fee to 10%. And you might be able to help them save their home. So educate yourself if you're going to do foreclosures, because there's a lot to it. And if I had one, like, I would outsource to people I know that do loan mods, because that in itself is a profession.
Yeah, no, there was a thing that pasted on how to sell pre-foreclosures, and he gave the 7 steps, but I was like, I don't know, this does not look fun. All right, so the other question was, it was a higher interest than you usually wanted. The lead I sent was a 6.1%. It was a combo residential commercial, and there was like a senior living thing there, and the stream was $6,000. They're investors that are willing to give it up or renegotiate with the contract if you really didn't want someone there. That's what I sent you. And I wasn't even sure. I mean, I went through the whole thing and they're totally open to investing.
So here's the thing. If it's not, and again, this is just me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like, we're making, upwards of 6 figures a quarter, okay, in my current acquisition business. So if I stopped every time somebody said, hey, I got this really cool deal, the thing is, it's like this very specialized niche.
Right.
You want to help me with it. And I stopped what I was doing, I would make less money in my other business. So
right.
It's not that I'm not interested in it. And what I'm getting at here is that for you guys, what I would do is I would focus on quicker cycles of making revenue first. And then if you want to get into something like that, specialize in it. Be hey, if you got this kind of deal, go to Cindy. Cindy's the person that you need to find, because she has buyers. She knows how things work. Because I honestly, I don't know how it works. Like, I know that.
Okay, that's a no. That was a bad lead. Okay.
Well, it's not.
I wasn't sure.
It's not a bad lead. I just want to clarify that. Like, look, with these types of buyers, I have a buyer, by the way, in SoCal that's looking for this type of thing. Okay. I send her stuff and she sends it out to people. And I actually have somebody else who I'll send it to, and I'll be like, hey, go talk to this person. Because I can't take my time to do that. But what I will tell you is their spending capacity is way higher than somebody like me who's trying to just buy rentals. Because if it's over 10%, I'm like, I don't know if I want it, right? They'll go 20%, 30%, 50% entry fees on some of these. And I had one buyer tell me that they would hold it for 3 years and not make any money on it, because they're going to make so much money on the back that it was worth it to them.
Okay.
But until you're creating, consistent revenue, then I would focus on something else, or spend all your time focusing on that. Cool. All right, Cindy, I appreciate you. Kalila, what's up, girl?
Hey, Patrick, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. I just wanted to kind of go back to when you were saying about the balloon payment.
Yep.
Is it fair to say that you're trying to predict what the future is going to be like when you, I guess, refinance the deal or whatnot? Is it all about the timing of when you actually refinance that particular deal before the balloon payment? I'm just trying to get a better understanding of when should you, I guess, refinance a deal before the balloon payment, if I heard it right.
Yeah. So let's talk about negotiation first, and then we'll talk about timing second, right? So when I'm negotiating, let's say it's a hybrid and there's a pre-existing note, I'm not going to balloon out. I'm just going to tell them I'm going to pay you these payments until that seller finance note is paid off, and I'm going to pay off this other note whenever it gets paid off. And that's how I'm gonna negotiate it. Now, on my end, my private end, I might actually pay down the mortgage note faster just because that's the way that I think. But I'm not going to tell them that. I'm going to tell them this, I'm going to ride this thing out for 30 years or 29 years or 28 years or whatever it is. And the seller finance note, we're going to roll that into that as well. Right. So I might, again, it all depends, but I might match the interest rate for the seller finance note to match the mortgage rate and just have it like dual interest rates, or I might just do principal payments on that. And who knows, maybe I pay it off beforehand, but I'm not going to talk about balloons. Now, if it's seller finance, generally I won't bring it up at all. And then they'll bring it up. They'll typically, if it's an agent for sure, they're going to bring it up. If it's a seller, they might not, but usually they will. And then I'm going to go as high as I can. I usually say like 15 years and see what they say. And then we start negotiating back and forth from there. But it's all contextual. And
Okay.
so what you're going to hear is like, and what I'll tell them, I'll ask them, this is really important, guys. If you're on your phone, drop that shit, pay attention. This is really important. It's going to win you a lot of negotiating deals. There's a lot of levers to pull with seller finance. What you have to figure out is what's most important to them. Is it their asking price? Is it how much money they're making monthly? Is it when are they going to balloon out? Right? All of those things. Is it the interest rate? So you want to figure out what's most important first, and then you go, okay, great. So it sounds to me that your purchase price is really important to you. You want as much equity as possible. Is that correct? Okay, great. So you said you wanted 350. I'll tell you what, John, I'll give you 360. How does that sound? And some of you might be saying, what? Why would you do that? Because I want terms and I want to make them happy. I want to tell them, I'm not only going to give you what you want, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to give you more equity. And some investors might disagree with me, but I want to close more deals. And then once they get that thing, now all the other levers are mine to pull. I want a lower payment. I don't want any interest. I want principal only payments. To see how that works.
So basically you're, since you're giving them more than what they're asking, they're going to be more inclined to give you exactly what you want, which is terms and favorable terms or whatnot.
Right, exactly. And again, guys, this isn't like, it's not like this is a template, right? It's not like this is like my default, like figure out what they want and give them more, because that's not how it works. It depends on the situation and the context and the motivation. But the point is you want to figure out what's most important to them first. And then you want to go, okay, great. That's what you want. Now I'm going to adjust my terms around what's important to you.
Okay.
Cool. And then to answer your second question, you were like, what about the timing in terms of the balloon? I always shoot for the moon when it comes to balloons. Like go out as far as you possibly can, right? And then if it's below 7, it's just not a deal for me. I just tell them it's not a deal. Unless they're willing to say 5-year with a 3-year extension based on interest rates, then it's a deal for me because I'm securitized at that point.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. All right. All right, guys. Any other questions before we move on? I feel like we've gotten so much done in just 36 minutes. I'm very proud of us, Mike.
Doing great.
All right, guys. So we're here. We talked about, am I presenting? Let's present. There we go. So sub 2, there's a note involved. They don't have very much equity. Seller finance, they've got all the equity. Hybrid is between, they've got a considerable amount of equity and there's still a mortgage on the property. All right, so how are we reaching out to these people? Well, there's an advanced way and there's just the way. Advanced way is to get MLS access. And then you take those APNs, plug them into a spreadsheet, and then you plug that information into PropStream, which will then give you expired listings and on-market listings. And then we're then filtering inside of PropStream based off of that criteria. Okay. We're not looking at variables because the interest rate will change, and you'll see a lot of those on the market actually. And they're just not deals for us. Until you come across a buyer that wants variable interest, don't pay attention to those. Day 2. And by the way, I say day 2, but this could be day 3, day 4, whatever. It's the next day. You take that list, you're going to enter those contacts into your CRM. I like to calculate the equity at ask. Again, watch the previous video that I posted on YouTube and subscribe for crikey's sake. I'm helping you guys out. So after that, after you have all that, you've got their contact information, you've got equity. Now it's time to call them, and you're going to call them on the 4 pillars. In the chat, guys, what are the 4 pillars? 5 pillars. What are the 5 pillars in the chat? Go ahead and type that so those who are new will understand that. You have condition. What is the general condition of the property? Occupancy, is this vacant? Then you have motivation. I'll generally just say, this is an interesting looking house. Do you know why they're selling? Timeline. When are they trying to close escrow? When are they accepting offers? When are they reviewing? So on and so forth. If it's on the market for 60 days, I usually don't ask when are they reviewing and accepting, because clearly they haven't gotten any offers. But I'll ask, when do they want to close? And that gets the agent and seller thinking about, oh, they were really going to close with me. And then the last one is price. I noticed that you had this listed previously at 500. Would you still be interested in that price? Or I noticed that you currently have this listed at 500. Is that price firm? Asking that question so you know if there's any room on that price. Okay, now
what's the most important, Patrick?
That's a great question, Mike. Thank you for jumping in. Guys, 100% motivation. 100%, guys. Because why? Well, how motivated really are they to sell? Number one, should you be spending your time with them, right? I literally just had this conversation with one of my team members. She may be one of the most talented team members I have, and she has chops. The girl's got chops. She can sell. And she's just not closing as many deals as everybody else. And what I noticed was she's spending time with agents that are wasting her time. And so when we realize that and we start to triage our opportunities, you're going to make more money, guys. And so that kind of goes back to what Cindy and I were talking about in terms of that specialized niche. It's like, is it a deal? Maybe. How much time is it going to take to find out? All right. You could be closing 2-3 deals in that time. All right. So we recap the conversation, break down equity, and submit an LOI, a letter of intent, to that seller and or agent. And then once we do that, we take a look at whether or not it's a deal. We underwrite it and see if it's going to cash flow. And this, for me, guys, this just shows me, am I going to buy this deal? If not, I might still lock it up and find a buyer for it. But generally speaking, I'm looking to actually acquire the property myself. Okay, cool. Any questions on this, guys?
I think it's good to point out the comping and the underwriting happens at the end of this process, right? Like we spend a lot of time going through properties, comping and underwriting them at the beginning of the process, but we don't know if the person's going to be interested or if they're going to even want to entertain a creative offer, right? So get as many shots as you can across the bow, give these people a call, and then once you get them across the board of wanting to engage with you, that's when you can go into the comping and underwriting stage according to the schematic, right? It's not to say that you don't want to get your reps in, you want to learn how to do this comping and underwriting, but spend your time where it's most effective.
Man, you were really pulling your weight as a co-host today, my friend. I love it. I love it. Yeah, guys, what he said is so important. And in the beginning, I will say this, what I would do is spend your time like, okay, so the first thing, I'm going to go over this because what he said is super important. You want to figure out how to do this. And this is the first thing you would do before you make the calls, because you're going to want to know this information as you're talking to them. And sometimes sellers and agents don't even understand how much equity they have. Okay, so this is really important. So this is really the only calculations you're going to be doing before you make a call. And sometimes, guys, I'll literally do this on a live call. I'll just do it on a call because I've done it so many times. Then and only then would you, after you made the call, after you've gauged interest, underwrite the deal. And now if you're new, again, to echo what Mike is saying here, yeah, you know what? You should just practice underwriting these just for practice, because what you're going to pick up is it's going to change the way you speak. It's going to change the way you talk about real estate with sellers and agents. And it's also going to change the way that you vet and triage deals, because now I've underwritten so many of these deals, I can look at the numbers without even pulling out a spreadsheet most of the time and tell you if it's going to be a deal or not. All right. So what he said was super important, guys. Day 3. Look at this. This looks so simple, guys, but it's not. Okay. Here's the statistic, guys. 100% of the deals that I've closed involve follow-up. 100%. I have never, ever closed a deal on the first call. I've gotten some pretty high interest on the first call, that's for sure. But they're going to need to see an LOI. They're going to want to see proof of who you are. They're going to need to get to know you more. There's going to have to be a follow-up conversation. So it's really important that when you're going through the 5 pillars, where are my 5 pillars at? Here they are. Usually in somewhere in here, there's going to be rapport building. Somewhere in here, you want to build rapport, because on call 2, you're going to be like, how's the golf swing doing, Bob? Or how are your kids, Susan? Whatever, right? And you want to have that on call 2. You want to have rapport on call 2. Why? So they don't hang up the phone when you pitch them your price. Really important, guys. So they do not hang up the phone when they pitch price, when you pitch price. Cool. All right. All right, guys, let's, I promised you I'd make some calls, didn't I? Let me see if I can get somebody on the phone. Oops, let me take this off my screen. All right, I've got one person that I'm going to call. This is actually direct to seller, and I'm going to call them straight from my personal line because I don't have them entered into my CRM. I'm going to mute you guys, but I'm going to play this for you and see if he picks up the phone. All right. If he doesn't pick up, I'm going to call him a couple times. Let's see. It's taking forever to call. All right. Huh. Doesn't look like it's calling. That's weird. I've definitely paid my phone bill. Let's try this again. Oh, there we go.
This is Jerry.
Hey, Jerry, my name is Patrick Curley. I'm calling because I noticed that you had a property in Rio Vista for sale. I'm just calling to see.
I'm not interested in doing any kind of creative financing, anything else.
Okay, so you've clearly had this conversation before.
Countless times.
I'm just curious before I let you go, is there a reason that is?
I'm curious as to why you guys are calling trying to pitch this and none of you have the information that you need.
Okay,
I mean,
so
do you know what Rio Vista is? Everyone keeps calling me, oh yeah, we want a nice rental property. Really? How are you going to make a rental property in a property that doesn't allow rentals? Do you guys, any of you guys do your research before you start making cold calls?
yeah, I've actually purchased a property in Rio Vista. And so
Okay.
I'm partners
Do you
with
know the rules over there?
Oh, so to be honest with you, we're actually looking to hold properties even if they're vacant.
Okay, so how you're not renting them out at all?
Most of them we are, but so I'll just tell you a little bit about me. I won't waste too much of your time. I'm partners with 2 of the biggest buyers in the Sun Belt and California. And really what we're looking for is tax depreciation. So a big part of what we do is we rent out a lot of these, we hold them, and then we sell them later.
Well, the price is $412. I mean, I don't. If you want, are you angling for creative financing where I have all the risk and you have the property at the end of the day? I mean, where are we headed with this?
Yeah, no, let's definitely address the elephant in the room. There's risk involved in this, but I will tell you this, like I mentioned, we're one of the biggest buyers in the Sun Belt. We've got thousands.
That's all white noise. Where's the tire meet the road? What's your angle? What's in it for me? What's in it for you? Give it to me in 30 seconds.
Well, what's in it for you is I can give you your equity that you have currently at your ask. You said 412. I might be able to bump that up even more. The reason that we do assume the loan subject to is that it allows us to scale. And so, I mean, if we assume these loans personally, we would only be able to assume so many. So that's the reason for our topic. But yeah, I mean, the why we're doing it is for tax appreciation to build assets, and we're looking this as a tool to solve a problem. So if this isn't a huge problem, I totally understand. But if it's something,
it's still in my name, and the loan is still in my name.
That's correct. And what I can do is
you're coming back and you're going to pay my loan. You're going to pay my note in full.
Yeah, that's
you're
correct.
Going to pay my note in full. I could make this easy on you. If you wanted to do something like that, I would get my own attorney and I would set it up to where you do that. You pay my note in full. You would assume the property, and anytime you choose to sell it, but the title doesn't get moved until the title company is paid off and my lender is paid off.
Yeah, I mean,
basically it would just be rent to own the thing, and for the most part, and it would be written as such. But I mean, I've seen some guys come up and start pitching the stuff, and there's you've put so many red flags in your operation that I can't even give it a serious thought. It's a joke. Seriously. I mean, if you want to come in, if it was just a straight handshake deal, just simple, I'll assume your loan at that amount, and no problems asked when you decide to sell it, you sell it, but that property gets paid off first. I don't get burned. If you default on it, it comes back to me. All that would be great, and we could walk away with it. But you guys,
well, no, that's actually how
you guys set this up with too many red flags.
Well, no, I'm not quite sure who you're referring to, but I can send you some company information.
I have this, dude. I get a call every single day. I live in the Philippines, man.
Oh,
I mean,
love it.
I get a call every single day from somebody in freaking San Mateo or wherever.
Right. Okay.
Every day.
Well, the difference here is that, I mean, I can show you examples of this. I can show you paperwork. I could CC you with my lawyer. I'd be more than happy to have a conference call with your lawyer.
I mean, I'll have to research this more off down the road. I'm looking at renting it out.
Okay. Renting it out.
Yeah, I've got my real estate agent is that's the other problem is I've got the woman who's taking care of it as a real estate agent. And yeah, I mean, she's basically back there working for nothing until this place eventually gets sold. She's caretaking it because she knows it's going to come back to her down the road. So anyway, look, for now, I'm just not interested. I've researched into these, and I've gotten too many calls on it, and then I've seen the paperwork guys are trying to push on me, and you've added too much, no risk for you, and all the risk for me. So I'm not interested. I'll be honest with you.
If there was a way that we could securitize this transaction, would you be interested?
I'd consider it. Yeah, it would be kind of a rent to own sort of deal, in my opinion, because to be honest with you, if you default, I mean, if you're on a straight shooter and you've got cash and you come up with the front money cash and it's in the contract where my company gets paid off before you, because what some of your peeps do is they try to sell the property off, and down the road this can happen. You try to sell the property off. You sell the property off, take the money and run, and the property doesn't get paid off. That happens. Because of the way, the way you didn't read the contract.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not how we structure the deals. And again, I'd be more than happy to sit down. By the way, these are all brokered deals, and we go through escrow, so these aren't self-performing. So there's no like
Okay, well,
tricky.
it would have to go through my escrow company. It would have to go through the escrow company that I use.
As long as
And
as long as they understand the transaction, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, and then the second portion of that is that my lending company is going to have to be in the loop somehow.
Sure. I have no look. We're an open book, and again, Jerry, I super appreciate your time here, and it sounds like you got a lot of people knocking on your door. I look at this as problem solving, so I want to work with you to get to the solution, and so I'm completely flexible with our approach.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me do some research on this thing. Call me back in about 2 weeks, and I'll let you know where I stand with this. The problem right now is, as soon as I tell my realtor, she's going to go, okay, well, have fun with your property. And I've got a property sitting in California that I can't get rented out. Now I got to go spend 10+% on a property that's already at $600 in the red on rental, because you can't rent them for what you pay over there. So,
well,
that's the problem.
I like where you're coming from. It sounds like you really want to take care of your people. I'd be more than happy to pay your agent her commission on the seller side.
Well, I mean, I'll split the loss with her. Is the way I'd end up doing it. But call me back in 2 weeks.
Okay, Jerry. Hey, is it okay with you if I text you my email, and then maybe I can shoot over some information for you?
Go ahead and don't add me on any email lists.
Oh, no. I don't want to do that. I want
me at jerrybrown125@gmail.com. Cut all the crap out. Cut all the, well, this is the good deal for me. Just cut it. You know what I'm talking about.
Get straight to the point.
Cut all the used cars and the junk out of this thing, and just give me bullet points how this thing's set up. Don't tell me why it's so great. Just tell me the bullet points, how it's set up, so that I can go, this is the deal right here.
You got it.
I can touch base with the lawyer. He doesn't have to, spend 2 weeks trying to decipher all your cuteness.
You got it.
Cut
Yeah.
all that garbage out. You know what I'm talking
I
about.
know 100% what you're talking about.
Out of there.
And Jerry, I will touch on that, because I think it's really important that you do, get legal counsel on anything when it comes to hard assets. This is a legal transaction that is sanctioned by the United States government. Let's just get that out of the way. And so what most lawyers will say is what you already know, that it's not quote unquote in your best interest to do this type of transaction because there is risk involved. It's not the question of whether or not there's risk. It's the question of whether or not who you're doing business with is not going to default. And so that's why I will provide some company information.
To be honest with you, if you hold it for 5 years and default is the best thing in my personal opinion, because any way it's written is the property will immediately go back to me. And I'm like, okay, so you've been paying my mortgage for 5 years. I'm good with that. The only way this works is if you're a straight shooter, and at the end of the day, it's not contractually written where I get burned when you default, or I get burned when you sell the property and don't pay it off. Those are the two ways it goes. If my mortgage is getting paid and it's being paid off in my name, which is going to be because the property can't be transferred until it's paid off from the lender. See what I'm saying?
I 100% agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
So I'm, if you default, great. You didn't come up meet the expectations of the contract. It goes back to me. No problem there.
Right.
It's all the other trash that they pile in there. It says when you default, it's too bad. You can scramble to try and fix it, and then you don't. Your investors take the money and they don't pay it off, and then I'm burned with it.
Right.
So that title will never get transferred until it's paid off from my lender. So, I mean, as far as title goes, the only thing you are buying is the rights to sell it when the market is prime. And California, and that's why you're calling me, because no matter what happens, California falls the hardest, but they always climb back the fastest and they climb the highest.
Agreed.
The only reason you're calling me.
Well,
you wouldn't be. Nobody's doing this in Oklahoma. They're doing it in Cali because that's where the strong markets come back. That's where the bounce comes back.
Right.
And the ball bounce is the highest there. That's where the big profits come.
Yeah.
California, before, we went 12 years, that's 6 to 10% growth. That's unsustainable. So that's why we're where we're at now.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
So I'm possibly interested in doing this.
Great.
But I'll do some more research on this.
Okay.
And send me the information like I asked at my email. I'll read through it. I'll talk to a couple lenders I know. I'll talk to a couple realtor people I know, and I'll see what we can get done with this. If I want to move this direction.
Well, Jerry, I appreciate you considering this. And next time I call, I'll make sure that I'm on Philippines time.
No worries. No, you're good. This is a perfect time.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. Hey, Jerry, thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye now.
Holy crap, that was awesome.
And that's why they call me the closer.
Can you break it down, Patrick? Because I think I'll raise my hand. But when he was saying all these things, you were coming back quickly or just agreeing with him. But can you go through, if I'm the person that you are talking to and I'm afraid that you'll default, and he was throwing these things out about
with negotiations. So first of all, let's define what negotiations is. And so like somebody's got some feedback. Who's got feedback? Can we mute them? Because I can't stand the sound of my own voice. So like at a corporate level, like when you have discourse in a large corporation, they will hire consultants to come in and negotiate. So what do those consultants do? They come in between disputing parties and they figure out what's the highest intention. Because usually people are arguing down here. And if you go high enough, both of them want something. So that's where they start. So what a lot of people don't understand in negotiations is that's exactly what I'm doing is I'm figuring out what is it that you want and let's meet there first. And I'm going to agree with you as much as I possibly can and not disagree with you at all. So when he says you're going to default, I'm a risk of defaulting, whatever, right? I say, yeah. You might have noticed that I said, Jerry, let's just address the elephant in the room. Because he used the words, I take all the risk. And I said, Jerry, let's just address the elephant in the room. You're right. There's a lot of risk in this type of transaction. And when I address what he's saying, he understands that I know where he's coming from. And he's like, oh, he's agreeing with me. And I add to that and I say, and if you knew our company, you would see that we don't put ourselves in a position to default. I wouldn't be on this phone call with you, Jerry, if I wasn't confident in the fact that we're not only going to perform, but we could perform on 1,000 of these deals if I wanted to. Right?
Yeah. So it wasn't really talking about the negotiating. I was more talking about the structure of this. So so you guys take over the loans, then if you did default, he would risk, right? Because you're taking it over the mortgage.
You would have to foreclose on us.
Right. So then he said it would go back to him. That's what I wanted to understand. So if you defaulted, isn't it going back to him then, or how does that work? That's what I wanted to understand.
Well, he would have to go through the legal, the legal recourse and take those actions, which is going to cost him money.
Okay.
And there might be a tenant involved. So he would have to evict them and foreclose on us. And so my lawyer right now costs $658 an hour. And she will charge me for text messages, right? So it can get expensive. And so that's the risk that he's talking about.
Okay.
And so this is why it's so important, guys, that if you're going to do this stuff, number one, if you're going to take it on yourself, you have to understand that you need to, when I say take it on yourself, if you're going to acquire it yourself, you need to know that you're not going to put this person at risk. Because at the end of the day, this isn't a game, right? This is important. These are people's lives that we're negotiating with, their well-being, I should say. Right. So I could buy this thing cash right now if I wanted to. So I know that I'm not going to default. I could leave this thing empty for a year if I wanted to. I'm not going to default. So I have the risk tolerance to do so. And and I know that's not the case for everybody here, and that's okay. But when you align yourself with somebody who does, then you can speak like I'm speaking in these conversations.
Do you ever show people what you have as reassurance of the risk tolerance or no?
We have a company packet that shows
Okay.
them we have like 50 subsidiaries, we have headquarters, we've got properties and testimonials, and I mean
Okay.
it's just, it's a lot of authority in the packet.
And then I'll ask one more question and I'll shut up. What is the name of your company? Because people keep asking me that when I just say I work with a bunch of investors. Well, who are they? I've had 3 people and I'm like, I'll get back to you on that. What do I say?
For now, you can tell them Freebird Real Estate Investments.
Okay, perfect.
And then we're actually right in the middle of rebranding. I just started 3 new brands. One is for our cash deals in California. One is for our acquisitions, creative acquisitions, which is going to be Sun Belt Acquisitions. And we'll have a credibility package. We'll also have a website. Pace has given me the green light to align myself with him. And that's literally what we're doing. So yeah, and then we're gonna have a Dispo brand as well, but that's unrelated to what we're talking about today. Kalila, isn't the purpose of the performance deed? That's a good question. So that doesn't exist in California. It only exists in certain states. Unfortunately, I wish it did. And it's basically so the problem is that somebody has to hold and execute this, intermediary or somebody who is not representing either party has to hold and execute such a document. And that's the obstacle that it has with securitizing these transactions, because title and escrow's job, their job is to make sure that title's clean, make sure the new person gets on title, escrow handles the cash. That's it. They're not in the spirit of the transaction, so to speak. And then, your lawyer's job is to make sure that no one's breaking any enforceable contracts and or laws, right? And then you have the servicing companies, which is usually what you'll hear Pace and other guys say, is they'll hold the performance deed. Well, their job is just to send out checks, right? So it's really nobody's job to do that. So that's where performance deeds become kind of sticky. I don't ever pitch people on performance deeds. I usually lean in heavier to who I am and negotiate. You might have noticed, guys, that he kind of contradicted himself a few times. Did you guys notice that? Yeah. And I didn't say anything. You remember, guys, what did I say towards the end of the conversation? I said, look, Jerry, I look at this as problem solving. Now, I did a pull away. It's called a pull away. When you say you're interested, but you go, yeah, maybe I'm not interested anymore. That's a pull away. And I did it while maintaining rapport and building stronger rapport by saying, look, Jerry, I look at this as problem solving. And if this isn't a huge problem for you, I understand. I apologize that people are reaching out to you and banging on your door, but if I can help you solve this problem with the tools that I have in front of me to employ, I want them. Right. So I'm not arguing with them. I'm agreeing with them. And I'm also telling them that I'm literally on your side. I'm trying to solve this problem. Cool. All right, guys. Any questions on that?
A quick question from me. It sounded like he was saying that he wasn't interested in transferring any sort of title over until the loan is paid off, right? So right there, you're not technically in the realm of subject to anymore, right? So this is something that maybe you could elaborate a little bit on, Patrick. I think Pace has talked about it a little bit in the past, but is this like an executory or like an agreement for sale, land contract type of situation? What does this technically get categorized as at this point?
I think it just boils down to, I mean, yes, you could change the way that you're taking title, but I'm no longer interested. Or excuse me, you could change the way that you're purchasing the property without taking title, but I'm no longer interested. Why am I going to do that? If that's just, by the way, this is just me. I'm not desperate to purchase properties, but if it's a good deal, I'm excited to, right? And so I let him talk and I let him say that stuff just because I know he's going to pick up my next call. Next time I call him, I'm going to be like, Jerry, I don't hear any chickens in the background. Everything okay? I don't know if you guys can hear the chickens or not, but there was like chickens going on in the background, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I'm going to call him, hey man, how's the weather in the Philippines? You know, we're going to chat for a little bit. I'm going to build some rapport. All I want him to do is pick up my phone call, guys. That's it. And he's straight, get straight to the point. That's how he is, right? So great. I'm the same way. I don't want to waste time. But anyways, what I'm going to tell him next time is like, well, look, Jerry, the reason that we're interested in taking title is all the benefits that we get. You just said that this thing isn't going to cash flow. And I'm going to use his own words against him. Every time somebody opens their mouth, guys, and that's why you got to shut up and let people talk. Because everything they say, I look at it as ammunition. I look at it as a key to a door because I'm going to use their exact words to open that door back up to the conversation. And well, Jerry, you said this thing's not going to cash flow, but you know, I'm looking at what are my benefits then? I want to help you out of this situation if it's a situation, Jerry, but I need something out of it. Cool. All right, we're at 409. Should we underwrite this thing? Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. Well, I guess we will. I just can't show the address online. So let's do this. Let's pick underwriting sheet. And I know the next question to come out of this conversation is, where can I get this spreadsheet? Somebody in the chat already has it, and they're going to post it for me. All right, that's too much. All right, so I can't show any sensitive information. But what I'm going to do is I am going to. All right, so we have a note here at 377. So inside of this sheet, he said he wanted 412 for it. 1, 2, 3. Let's just say the ARV is 450. Because it doesn't really matter to me. None of these, this isn't a cash deal, it's a creative deal. So I'm going to leave all these cells empty. But basically what we want to look at is how much this thing will rent for. And so how do you look at that? Well, Trulia.com. You could go to other places like Zillow to see. Notice he got mad at me in the beginning of the conversation. He goes, you guys haven't even done your research. I said, well, we have, Jerry. That's why I'm calling you, buddy. All right, give me 1 second. I'm trying to find out how much I can rent this thing for. It looks like this is a 2-2. I could rent it for 20. Looks like I could rent it for 22, 2.3 to 2.5. So I'm going to say, oh, look at that right here. That's my rental. That's my monthly rental income is 2,500. We have a note here that started in 12/10/21. So we're going to go 12/10/21. And this is doesn't matter what type. The interest rate is 3.1314. And then we're going to be taking this loan subject to, that's here. 30-year term, 12 payments every year. Okay. So I've got that. He wants 412. I have not done, oh wait, yeah, I have. Let's see. So his last asking was 408. He wants 412. He was gonna net 2000 before. So that gives me another 4K. So he's only gonna net like $4,000. So I'm gonna say, let's just zero this out for now. All right, so cash to seller is going to be, you know what, I'll just give him, fuck it, let's give him $10,000. He seems like a nice guy. And then at 412, we're going to pay probably we're probably going to pay 2.5 points to the agent. He kind of alluded to cutting her out on the deal, but let's just say we'll pay her because I want to get him to say yes. So that's another 10 grand. Closing costs 412, say 1%. Probably leave it at like 3K. What do you think closing costs on this would be, Mike?
Closing costs and the asking price anywhere
412.
412 for is it usually like 6% closing costs?
I usually go like maybe 1. So I go like 3 to 4K on this. So we'll just, we'll be conservative. We'll say 4 and 1. So my total entry fee on this is $24,000. But remember that we're looking at 10% of our entry fee, right? So my max spending on this would be 41K.
Right.
So I'm actually looking really good on my entry fee right now. This is looking great to me. Good. Does that all make sense so far, guys?
The commissions, did you do the 2.5? What was the percentage?
2.5.
Okay.
I'm just gonna give her the top line. I don't know what her cut is, but I'm gonna give her the seller side. Okay, so we have all this there. I don't believe he's behind on payments. So that's fine. We don't know if there's any liens. Generally they would be paid out at close, but sometimes you can negotiate those or pay them off. All right, so there's that. Okay. So basically now that we've got this loan subject to here, we have all this here. We're looking at our monthly income and we have our subto principal and our interest. So this is our P and our I. And then we have taxes and insurance. So we're this is in California, and a ballpark would be 0.0125 to do on the taxes, but you can also look up property taxes. I forget the site name. I always forget the site name. What's property taxes? Let's see what pops up. Oh wow, that just popped right up. Where's their? So 1.34 is what this is telling me here. That's okay, fine. So we'll take our purchase price. And by the way, even if it's a sub 2, your purchase price is the amount that you're paying the seller plus the note. So I'm at, oh wait, we didn't do this correctly. This is 390. So we're at 391,400. 391,400. There we go. That's correct. So what's left on the note is actually 377,995 plus the 10K I'm going to give the seller. So you notice how he was like, well, I want 412. The price is 412. All right. Well, it's like, well, I'm giving you cash plus I'm taking over your note. I see some confused faces. I'm losing some of you right now, aren't I? So
Yeah.
he said 412, right? But remember, if we are purchasing this on market, We have agent fees, closing costs, blah, 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 blah. We're paying all that. So really what he would net at ask was like actually like $5,000, and I'm going to give him 10. Does that make sense so far, guys? So even though he said 412, what he's going to net is a specific amount of money, which I'm going to dictate. And I'm saying I'm going to give the guy 10K, which will probably make him pretty happy, hopefully. Right. So now we've got $10,000 plus what's due on the note, which is 377,955. So the actual purchase price is, let me change this, 387,955. That's the actual purchase price. That's what it's going to say on the RPA, guys. And when you have a purchase price that goes to public record, you have a tax assessment, which means Uncle Sam goes, where's my money, right? And you got to pay taxes on that. So now what we're doing is we're taking this property tax, this 1.34, and we're going to multiply that by our purchase price of 387. So I'm going to just do this real quick. 387,955 times, what did I say? 0.0134. 0.0134 equals 51K a year divided by 12. I'm looking at 433 in tax. Say insurance, 150, whatever. So, and if I have a war chest at 15%, look at this, guys. I'm actually losing money.
What's a war chest? Should I know?
So this is referred to as CapEx, capital expenditures. So CapEx is like repairs, vacancy, so on and so forth, right? So actually on paper, I might be able to get this insurance down, but if all of this is correct, I believe it is. This is a home. I'm just looking at rental prices right now. We definitely would have to get that up to, I'd probably have to get more out of my rent because I want to break even on this. So I'd probably have to bring this rent up if I could. Might not happen.
Where is he? Where does he live?
This is Rio Vista.
What is that? Is that like Texas or something?
No, it's in California.
Okay.
It sounds like something from Texas, doesn't it?
I mean, Rio Vista is it? And how would you know if he had HOA, or he would have told you, you would have known this already, right?
You know what? That's a great question. He probably does, which is going to bring my number down even more. HOA is 220. And so now we're negative 357. So technically, if we were to take out CapEx, we are in the positive. We're actually making only $17 a month. So someone like me, I would buy this deal, right? I'm probably going to lose, I'm going to probably lose a couple grand in my first year, assuming there's no major things that happen. Like I just bought a rental and I had to like I had to fix the gate and it cost me like $4,500. So assuming nothing like that happens, I'll probably only lose $1,200, something like that. And I'm okay with that because the year after that, I'm going to raise my rent. And the year after that, I'm going to raise my rent. And the year after that, and that, and that. And then eventually I'm going to sell the thing. So for me, this is a deal. I would buy this. But normally what an investor wants to see is 20% CapEx. And now we're way in the red. We're losing $500 a month. And this CapEx account, this is an account. This is where money goes, where you take money from the property as a responsible investor and you sink it into an account.
It wouldn't make any difference. You're giving him 10 or 2,000, it looks like, right?
Well, it's going to affect my cash on cash return. Where's that at? Cash. Where's my cash on cash? Where is it? Cash on cash flip, cash on cash wrap, cash on. I don't know why that's not populating. I'm gonna have to give Gary a hard time about that. Let's take CapEx out and see what happens. Nope, it's not working. I'm not seeing that anywhere here. So that's weird. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. I'm sure if Gary was here, he'd yell at me. It works just fine. You're doing it wrong. I'll ask him later about that so he has an opportunity to yell at me. But the cash on cash here is very low. But again, guys, I don't, for me as a buyer, I don't necessarily care too much about that. I want to acquire real estate. I'm not getting rich on rentals. I'm getting rich on my wholesale deals. Okay, so so far does this all make sense, guys? Let me recap. Purchase price is going to be the loan, the what's due currently, which is 377 plus whatever you're giving the seller. That's the purchase price. You will pay taxes on that, which you have to put into your spreadsheet under taxes. Then you've got your insurance. We're subtoing the loan at 3.14% at 391. Our monthly rents are coming in at 2,500. And so we're taking the HOA away from that as well. With 0 CapEx, we're left with 17. If we go 15 to 20, we're actually, oops, that was 150%. We're actually negative. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. We're negative 357 if we're taking a 15% CapEx. But remember that money's going to an account. So technically $17 would be going into an account. And I'd lose money on this. I would probably lose, now that I think about it, not 1,200. I'd probably lose close to $3,000 on this because I'd hire a property management company to take care of it. And I'm okay with that. Okay, any questions, guys? I do have a call. Go ahead.
What's the guarantee that that place is gonna go, you can raise it? Like, how do you know the percentage of rent increases?
Well, every state has their own regulations.
What's California?
I think it's 5%, something like that.
Okay.
I think it depends on the situation, but I think it's 5%. There's two things. I can't remember both of them. But when you guys, if and when you are ready for rental properties, that's questions that when you ask your property manager, like my last one that I hired, I vetted him. I was like, I want to know everything about how you operate. Like, how do you vet tenants? Like, what's your criteria? What third-party programs are you using to vet them? How do you handle maintenance requests? Do you have, you know what I mean? Like, you want to stick a microscope in their ass and look for anything that, I see Mike laughing. I hope that made other people laugh as well. But seriously, guys, it's not for me, it's not about cash flow, it's about risk. I want to mitigate as much risk as possible. And yeah, some people in the comments, Mike is alluding to appreciation, raised rents, tax depreciation is huge. So in this property, if we have what was my purchase price? 400, let's just say 400. So the way that you calculate tax depreciation, you take 400K, you divide that by 27.5, that equals 14K. You could take an accelerated 7 in the first year, so you times that by 7, $101,000 of tax depreciation, not too shabby for property. And I'm making 6 figures in a quarter. I get to say to Uncle Sam, I'm providing homes for people, and because of that, I'm not paying you taxes this year. Pretty cool. Okay, let's answer some questions. Dylan, what's up, dude?
So I was just gonna ask, since it's creative, so one of the things that I've ran into is that, because I look in California too, sometimes the roofs are original and they have solar panels, and if the you even really considering that in the entry fee? Like, if
Yes.
you're gonna turn it into long-term rental?
You want to disclose that, and the reason is that when you're so let me ask you this question: would you be wholesaling this or keeping it for yourself?
No, not for me. Not just to know when I'm coming to, yeah.
So with us in our acquisitions business, we give them as much disclosure as possible. The reason that is that the more you give your buyer, the more they're going to trust you, and the stronger relationship you will build with them. So if there's solar panels, they're going to need to know about it. They're going to find out anyways in escrow, because you got to change. You have to transfer the lien over, right? And that's going to hold up close of escrow. The last seller finance deal I did had solar panels on it, and so my buyer didn't care. In fact, my buyer was paying on a seller finance deal. He was paying market rents on his monthly payment, so he's zero cash flow, but he just liked the house, so he bought it. Probably for the same reasons I would buy this one and not cash flow. But yes, you want to factor that into your net operating expenses.
Oh, okay.
Or net operating income, excuse me.
Got it.
So yeah, you would just in the spreadsheet, there's an other thing, and you would just put that in the other. Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. All right. I have never had to pin and remove pins. I'm getting good at this though, this whole pinning thing. Kalila, what's up? We've been chatting a lot today.
Yes, we have. It looks like Mike may have answered my question. I was asking about the principal amount, that 390 something thousand dollar amount. Where did that amount come from? I didn't know if you used a mortgage calculator to come up to get that actual number, but he was saying
inside of PropStream, it'll give you what they owe now and what the original note was for, how much the original loan was for. So I just use that number. It's a calculation.
and also is that the same with the interest, that 3 point, that whatever that number, it comes from PropStream too?
That's correct.
Okay, I don't have PropStream, so that's why I was asking. I'm thinking about switching from privy to that. So
yeah, I like Privy for comping. Where it has MLS access, it's really good. Where it doesn't, it's not. And what I've noticed with new builds, for whatever reason, PropStream doesn't always have mortgage and transaction history where Privy will. So I actually use both.
okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Cindy, hi.
Sorry, I at the end, before you hang up, I wanted to ask you a question on your lead sheet. Or if you're ready to go, then I'll ask you now. That lead sheet, it's not broken down by the 5 pillars. And I don't know if I have the old one, but I can only give you like the asking price, but it doesn't ask me for the percentage, the mortgage. So do I have the wrong lead sheet?
I'm not quite sure which one you do have, but let me give you the one that, oops, let's see. Let me see if I can find it for you.
Sorry, I have to ask because I'm like, wait, I was like filling, I go, no, that's not Patrick. Patrick is anal. I know that you would have had it if.
Here it is. And I'm going to sign off with this, guys, in the chat.
And do you keep us up? The one lead I think is still open. I think everything else was closed. Will you keep us updated on that?
Yeah, you are referring to the 5 properties, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't talk to her. I figured I'm just gonna stay
I
with you.
just signed an NDA, and I think I'm waiting on financials. I got to check my inbox.
Okay.
This one, I'll tell you right now, it's going to take a while, but I'll keep you up to date.
Yeah, whatever. That's fine. I was just curious.
Yep, I'll
Thank
definitely
you.
keep you up to date. Yep. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining today. In the chat, I left you some links, some how to get started with wholesale, how to get started with creative finance, how to build a real estate business, some scripts, and then a JV form to fill out if you have an interested party that wants to sell their property and you need my help closing it. All right, guys. We will see you Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 Eastern Time. next week. I think Gary will be back from Vegas. He doesn't drink, so I don't expect him to be hungover. But yeah, thank you guys for joining, and I will see you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.